I love movies, right? Like I really love them in a way that I think, at least in the past, would definitely certify me as a movie buff. And I think that's why my friend was so surprised when I told him that as of whenever it is now, late April, that I'd only seen two movies this year. So how does that happen? How do you go from someone who might watch two movies a day to where I am now? And does it mean does it mean that I love movies any less? So I suppose this is sort of about movies. It's also about how we watch movies, how we're influenced. I think is an important bit. But honestly, it's kind of just about me. When I started thinking about this topic, I realized that I had loads of movie memories, like just stuff in my past that is tied to movies in a way that I didn't really realize. The earliest is that I remember going to the cinema with my mother to see the Powerpuff Girls movie. I think in like 2002. So I was terrified a girl in my class would see me and think that I liked the Powerpuff Girls, which I very much did. um, how and why that thought makes it into the head of a 5 year old is probably a topic for another video. A year later, a kid named Brian brought us to see Finding Nemo for his birthday. And then a year after that, I saw The Incredibles. And that was like the first time I realized movies could be good, like, really good. And then the following year, I saw Madagascar and I realized movies can be really bad as well. That was genuinely the first time I remember seeing a bad movie. My friend's dad was like super into that era of British comedy like Blackadder and Monty Python stuff. So I remember in sleepovers we would just watch those until like 4 in the morning as children and just like cry laughing. It was probably half delirium because I don't think those movies are that funny, but we loved them. We were going crazy for them at the time. I had my first ever kiss while watching Gran Torino in my friend's attic, which I don't know what that says about me, to be honest. And as a teenager, I would basically go and see a movie every week because I realized that it was a way to spend time with my dad without actually talking. So when I was a young teenager, I'd probably seen way more movies than any of my friends, but it never really seemed to be a part of who I was, right? I never wanted to be a filmmaker like a lot of people I see online talk about movies. I just liked watching them, and probably more than a lot of people. So in the mid 2010s, I started getting targeted by like the online movie discourse machine on YouTube. And honestly, for a time, I really loved it. Like, I got into review channels and video essay people, and undoubtedly, they kind of opened me up to a whole world of movies I'd never heard of. And it was great. Like, I had this whole catalog of films from all over the world, different eras, different styles, different directors that I could dive into. And I watched so much, right? I watched so many movies. And I kept getting into new stuff and finding new movies or new YouTube channels, and then they would kind of feed the cycle of finding new movies. And eventually, I was just a movie guy. You know what I mean? Like, that's probably how I thought of myself, and I think it's how other people kind of knew me as well. It became a thing I was instead of just a thing I did. And that went on for a few years. I would eat up any content about like actors, directors, movies, like the festival scene, behind the scenes disaster production of a movie everyone knew was going to be shit anyway. I started just not liking movies at this time, honestly. I spent more and more of my time watching movies that I knew would be bad, but I was watching them because I knew everyone was talking about how bad they were. And in hindsight, I realized a big part of the reason for this is just that the economics of running a movie channel on YouTube and the actual act of watching movies don't really line up. Like a movie reviewer, right? They have to watch movies at a clip that won't make sense for most people. It's just not realistic, especially as an adult. But you're also in an environment where you're rewarded for making fun of bad movies. Like those videos always do better than just an earnest review. So reviewers end up watching stuff like Madam Web, right? Like a more recent example, and making like an hour long video about how bad it is. It's like, okay, any normal person, if they see the promotional material for Madam Web, is going to just never watch it. And if we're being more realistic, most people are just never going to see promotional material for Madam Web, never know what it is, and never interacted with it in any way. And that's fine. But yeah, I was getting pissed off, so I just stopped. I just stopped watching everything. I stopped watching the YouTube channels, the reviews. I stopped looking at the discourse, whatever you want to call it. And I just stopped watching the movies too. And for a while around, I think this was probably around like 2024, 2025. I think I probably watched maybe 5 movies in 2025. And like I already said at the start, I've watched 2 movies this year. But honestly, I think I love movies more now than I ever did before, right? Like the movies I watch have the ability to actually affect me again. Sounds stupid, but like it's true. I talk about them with my friends, right? And I don't know what anyone else in the whole world thinks about them. Like I cried last year watching On Colin Kuhn, this beautiful little movie. It's wonderful. Go watch it. And I laughed my arse off watching like Kneecap. I saw Nosferatu with a friend, and as per our tradition with Robert Eggers movies, we got a drink beforehand and went to like the fancy cinema. It was really fun. This year I saw Marty Supreme with my dad, which we both loved. We're still learning how to talk to each other. And a few weeks ago, I saw the Hail Mary project, which I must be the only person on earth who does not like that movie, but whatever. I feel like a lot of the discourse and noise around movies online really took a lot away from me. It's weird, like, because a lot of the channels, I really didn't mention any specific channels because I actually think they do good work. It's just that the sheer volume of it makes it not really possible to engage with for a normal person. So that's why I'm kind of not, mentioning channels because I genuinely don't have any problem with them. I mean, there's a ton of really bad ones, right? Like, there's people who are just racist and like misogynist stuff. There's all that stuff. If you were in any sort of movie spaces in the 2010s and 2020s and more recently, like, who I'm talking about. Like, I'm not sticking up for them. They are not who I was watching. But I do kind of want to mention just one last thing before I go. Uh, I have to mention RLM, right? Everyone who's watching this is going to know who they are. And I loved their videos. Like they were one of the first people who got me into this stuff. Really like their stuff. Not not being mean to them, but they really had me for a few years. Like when I was younger, I put a lot of stock in their opinions. Like I thought that these guys seem to know what they're talking about, right? When you do that when you're a teenager, when you're a kid, you kind of defer to someone else, especially someone older than you. But they really, for like a few years, had me walking around thinking that Star Wars was good and like Ghostbusters. Come on, man. They're such dog shit movies. It's like they really love that stuff. That is just such a product of their time, though. Like all guys that age are just so into those movies. But yeah, goddamn. But other than that, no complaints about them.